all. Welcome to CEC lecture. The topic of analysis is political parties and party systems. In this lecture, we shall discuss the significance of comparative study of political parties and party system. In this lecture, we shall discuss important works from the realm of comparative political analysis with reference to political parties and typologies of party systems. To begin with, we all know that political parties are the most important agencies. They are the most important organs that participate in political process in a modern state. So therefore, when we try to understand the definition of the concept of political party, that is, a party may be defined as an organized group of people having a clear ideology and based on certain well-defined policies and having clear objectives. As we understand the importance of political parties, Professor Harold J. Lasky had pointed out in his work that is, there is no alternative to party government. He pointed out, quoting from his work, that government needs leaders. Government requires leaders, and leaders require not an incoherent mob behind them. But what do leaders need? Professor Harold Lasky pointed out that leaders need an organized following able to canalize the issues for an electorate with a free choice. Hermann Feiner in his work pointed out that political parties are two-way communication that binds 50 million people to 630 who in Commons, and here he is pointing towards the United Kingdom House of Commons, who in common exercise omnipotent power. An important definition of the concept of party comes from the work of R.M. McIver. McIver defined a party as an association organized in support of some principle or policy which by constitutional means endeavors to make the determinant of government. Taking the learning forward, we take reference to the definition presented by the political scientist R.N. Gilchrist. According to R.N. Gilchrist, a political party may be defined as an organized group of citizens who profess to share the same political views and who by acting as a political unit try to control the government. So this work, definition by R.N. Gilchrist, sums up that what are the essence of a political party. It's an organized group, they need to have same views, and above all they act as a political unit to influence and control the government. Now this brings us, with this discussion we come to the next important question: why should we study party systems? Now a comparative study of different party systems enables us to understand the political systems of the concerned country. Further, when we try to look at the comparative study, this study not only just gives us insight for the political systems, but also makes us understand the political processes, the institutions, and how one country can learn from the strengths and weaknesses of the other. We now come to a very important aspect of typology in comparative politics. And for that, we take reference to the inputs presented by R.N. Lichpart, that is, in comparative politics, a natural typology of political system should ideally perform two functions. What are they? Once again, quoting Aaron Lepart, it should facilitate comparison amongst different types and aid in the discovery of significant characteristics that are logically independent of the criteria defining the types but empirically associated with different types. Second, it should also facilitate comparisons within each type with the attributes held in common by all of the systems within the type, serving as the control variables or parameters. As we discuss this aspect of typology presented by Aaron Lepart, we now move towards the next important aspect, that is, we'll try to understand party systems from a comparative insights based on various typologies presented, and for that we'll take reference to some academic work. According to Newman, political party is representative of social interests, and these social interests act as a bridge, as a connecting link between the individual and the society at large. Further, the success of democracy, when we look at the important insights presented in the work of Newman, that is, success of democracy, it is dependent on efficient working of parties. We must understand that as we are discussing parties, there have been critiques of party systems also. For example, the first president of United States, George Washington, or J.P. Narayanan in India, they advocated partyless democracy. Though critics have argued that it is not viable when we look at the complexities and peculiarities of a democratic model, but yes, there have been critiques of the party systems also. As we talk about party system, the work of Giovanni Sartori is very important to reflect on. According to Italian political scientist Giovanni Sartori, party systems should be classified by number of relevant parties, and that herein there is a reference to two things. What are they? Degree of fragmentation, and second, party systems can be distinguished by effective number of parties. Giovanni Sartori went beyond Duverger. We'll just refer to Duverger also. Duverger's numeric typology in the classification of party system. So, whenever we reflect on the work of Sartori with respect to party system, it is often pointed out, and we must note that it is a comprehensive and one of the most authoritative approach with reference to classification of party systems. Another important perspective on typologies of party systems comes from the work of Jean Blondel, Types of Party Systems. We refer to the important article by G. Blondel, wherein he is talking about the types of party systems. Let us understand that. He points out that party systems can be classified based on number of parties in the system. That is, two-party systems, as he points out, that are rarely defined operationally. In his article, he points out 5 countries give on average more than the percent of their votes to 2 major parties. Further, G. Blondel types of party system focuses on strengths of parties, quoting from his work that despite differences in social structure, for instance, between, say, quoting from the work, United States, United Kingdom and Austria, the electorate distributes its preferences fairly evenly between the two parties. And then ideological spectrum and party strength. Quoting from the work of G. Blondel on types of party system and patterns of government in Western democracies from Canadian Journal of Political Science, that is, patterns of party systems in Western democracies are thus limited in number. That is, he points out there are discrete points at which party systems are to be found, not only social structures but balance and equilibrium have surely to be taken into account in an analysis of the real world distribution of Western party systems. The work of Rokan, it used a different parameter to define and the party system, to delineate various types of party system. It used patterns of government formation to classify the party systems of smaller democracies. Rokan's work, it aimed to look at patterns of government and opposition and disaggregate the multi-party category. When we critically analyze Rokan's work, one must understand that this work, whether or how effectively it can be used not only to differentiate party systems but also to assess patterns of continuity and change, is not somewhere clear. Maurice Duverger defined political parties in a very interesting manner. Taking the definition of political parties presented by political scientist Maurice Duverger, that is, political parties have their primary goal the conquest of power or a share in its exercise. They try to win seats at elections, to name deputies and ministers, and to take control of the government. The French political scientist Maurice Duverger's work, Political Parties, in 1951. Now, this work is very important not only with reference to classification of parties, but also with reference to linking party systems with electoral systems. It is very important to understand that evolution of party system, political parties, it coincided with the growth of parliamentary system and electoral processes. The work of Duverger gives important insights over this framework. Now, Duverger broadly divided all the party systems into two. And what are they? Pluralistic party systems, and second, one party systems and dominant party systems. In the first category, Maurice Duverger included first, multi-party systems, and second, two-party systems. In the second category, Duverger included one-party systems and dominant party systems. Taking the learning forward, Maurice Duverger pointed out that the present-day parties are distinguished less by their programs or the class background of their members than by the nature of their organization. So, therefore, an important reflection that we get from Maurice Duverger's work with reference to, that is, of the classification of party structures. We must understand that Duverger points towards four types of structures. What are they? First, the caucus. Second, the branch. Third, the cell. And fourth, the militia. In political science, it is very important that Duverger's law, very important to understand that Duverger's law, it holds that single ballot plurality rule elections, that is, first past the post. structured within single member districts tend to favor two-party system. Further, single member district electoral systems that require only a plurality to win election, they tend to produce two-party system. Now, these are important perspective with reference to Duverger's law. Taking the study forward with reference to typologies of the party system, the work of Almond pointed towards certain patterns. And what are they? There are Almond's classification follows the following patterns, wherein there are four broad types that we can read through. What are they? First, authoritarian parties. That is, one of the subcategories is called totalitarian parties or dictatorships. Next, dominant non-authoritarian, that is democratic parties. Third, competitive two parties. And fourth, competitive multi-parties. Taking the discussion forward, the next model that we look at with reference to classification of party system is from the work of James Jupp. That is, first, indistinct, not very clear bipartisan system. Second, distinct bipartisan system. Third, multi-party system. Fourth, dominant one-party system. Fifth, broad one-party system. Sixth, narrow one-party system. And seventh, totalitarian system. Taking the learning forward, the next classification that we look at is from the work of Hirschner and Levine, that is, modern party system according to their work can be classified as under 5 types. And what are they? Let's understand. Competitive two-party system. Second, competitive multi-party systems. Third, dominant non-authoritarian systems. Fourth, authoritarian party system. Fifth, states without party system. According to the American political scientist Robert Dahl, let's take Robert Dahl's perspective with reference to the typology of the broad exercise of democracy with reference to political parties, and this can be understood with reference to pluralist theory of democracy, that is, where political outcomes are enacted through competitive if unequal interest group. And herein the description with reference to the plurality aspect is that is of polyarchy, description of actual democratic government, namely the polyarchy. Now, as we are discussing various typologies of party systems, let's take into account a very interesting perspective that we get from the work of sociologist Robert Michaels. Now, this perspective with reference to iron law of oligarchy is used with reference to not only updating the insights with reference to classification of party systems, but also critique of the working of organization for several political party systems types. Robert Michaels' classical 1911 text, that is the name of the text, on the sociology of the party systems in modern democracy, and herein the phrase was coined with, that is, very popular phrase, iron law of oligarchy. Now, Robert Michaels' work is often paired with Gaetano Mosca and Vilfredo Pareto, and collectively the three Italian philosophers are known as elite theorists of democracy. As we understand Robert Michaels' iron law of oligarchy, it is essential to situate his classical 1911 text, that is, on the sociology of the party system in modern democracy, the context, that is, there was spread of universal suffrage, and seen at that time with the rise of modern, highly centralized, bureaucratic, disciplined mass party. Now, with this two very important complementary process, at one point universal suffrage was rising, at other point centralized mass party system models were rising. In this aspect, Michael's work presented a very important aspect, that is, quoting from the work, reduced to its most concise expression, the fundamental sociological law of political parties may be formulated in the following terms. It is organization that gives birth to the domination of the elected over the electors, of the mandatories over the mandators, of the delegates over the delegators. Who says organization? Says oligarchy. Quoting from the work of Robert Michaels again, the principle of oligarchy in modern democratic parties therefore arises from, Michaels points out, the technical indispensability of leadership. Further quoting from the work, as Robert Michael puts it, at the outset, leaders arise spontaneously. Their functions are accessory and gratuitous. Soon, however, they become professional leaders, and in this second stage of development, they are stable and irremovable. So, therefore, the work of Robert Michaels points towards an important tendency with reference to modern party system, namely that what is that all political party, regardless of the nature of systems, they move towards the iron law of oligarchy. Now, the typology with respect to parties and party systems has never been static. Time and again, political scientists have revised each other's work and formulations. Another interesting work, as we talk about typologies of party systems, comes from the work of Peter Mayer. Now, Peter Mayer attempts to use competition for governments as a device for distinguishing amongst the party system. In party systems in which competition for the government is close, there is alternation between parties or groups of parties. Governing formulas are familiar rather than novel or anything that can be called innovative. And access to government is typically restricted to only a few parties. In contrast, quoting from the work of Peter Mayer, systems in which structure of competition is open, there is partial alternation. Some parties rotate in and out of government while others remain. So, therefore, dear learners, as we attempt to understand political parties, it is very essential to understand that they are a very important aspect of a democratic apparatus. Time and again, various political scientists have attempted to understand and classify various party systems. For example, Giovanni Sartori, to the work of Jean Blondel, to the work of Maurice Duverger, to the work of Rocken, and to the work of presenting the important inputs with respect to the organizational aspect, to Robert Dahl's polyarchy, or to the important insights presented by Almond, James Jupp, Hitchman and Levine, and the important perspective presented by Robert Michaels to Peter Mayer. Party systems and the understanding of political parties has never been static. It has often responded with reference to the dynamic context within which government and policy makings exist. It is very essential to look at all these perspectives in order to understand the political parties through a comparative lens. The comparative study of party systems is very useful to comprehend political processes, institutions, their dynamics in a broad sense. We hope that the lecture presented to you significant inputs and insights with reference to the important academic works that we discussed for understanding the party systems, the classification of party systems thereof. We look forward to positive, encouraging feedback from you all. Thank you very much.